A very good evening, respected speaker, distinguished guests, and dear participants. Myself, Shauradip Odhikari. It is my immense pleasure to welcome you all to today's enlightening webinar titled Gandhi's Engagement with Islam and Composite Nationalism. This topic holds immense significance as it sheds light on Mahatma Gandhi's vision of unity, his engagement with Islamic traditions, and his role in fostering a spirit of nationalism, values that remain deeply relevant in today's times. Now, I would like to share few words with all of you about our today's eminent speaker. It is a privilege to introduce our esteemed speaker for this evening, Dr. Amit Dey, Asutosh Chair Professor of Medieval and Modern Indian History at the University of Calcutta. Doctor Dey is a very popular name in the field of history with decades of academic contributions. His research on Islam and Islamic mysticism in medieval and modern South Asia has been widely recognized, and his spans sources in Persian, Urdu, Bengali, and English. Professor Dey's achievements include a PhD from the University of London, authorship of acclaimed works such as Sufism in India and Islam in South Asia, and over 70 scholarly articles published globally. He has lectured at prestigious institutions like University of Chicago, University of California, Santa Barbara, and the University of Heidelberg, among many others. His dedication to historical research and mentorship has guided over 35 research scholars and earned him multiple international fellowships, including the Commonwealth Scholarship and the Max Weber Scholarship. Sir, it's truly an honor to have you here today, and we eagerly look forward to gaining new insights from your valuable words. Now, I humbly request to Dr. Amit Dey. Sir, please start your valuable lecture. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for the very generous introduction, Mr. Odhikari. And also, I am grateful to Dr. Gargi Dey and Mr. Modak for dragging me into this program, significant program. We have arranged this program at 10 o'clock because after a busy day's work, and also after spending time in various social functions, familial demands, after meeting familial demands, people can get time to interact or at least listen to something significant in the 21st century context when the South Asia and the world is facing the challenge of exclusivism and intolerance. So I thought that in this particular juncture, historical juncture, this topic would be relevant, not only for the social science students and scholars, but also to the people in general who are interested in serious things, and also those who have a very inquisitive approach to studies. And I think it's very significant for actually the nation building process as well, because nation building process is a continuous process. It doesn't end with the achievement of independence. So anyway, Historiographically speaking, scholars do not put much emphasis on Gandhi's research on Islam, Gandhi's serious engagement with Islam. Because in our historiography, South Asian historiography, theological discourses found entry only in the 1990s, not necessarily before that. So I think that's a lacuna in our historiography, and we are trying to just fill up that gap prevailing in the historiographical approach to Gandhian contribution to anti-colonial struggle. So now historians have mainly focused on Gandhi as a very dexterous politician, as a pioneer who involved the mass in the anti-colonial struggle, as a pioneer who could drag the women folk into the freedom struggle against the mighty British. And also, there are some people who put emphasis on Gandhi's rural reconstruction activities. But so far as Gandhi's serious and prolonged research on Islam is concerned, Gandhi's research on Sufism is concerned, this aspect is not very much discussed, or at least did not receive adequate attention in the historical engagement of the scholars. So I thought that if we explore this dimension, which is a less traversed territory, academically speaking, we can explore newer grounds, and our understanding of Gandhi and Gandhian contribution to anti-colonial struggle could be more comprehensive. So from that angle, I selected this topic. Actually, uh, I have divided the lecture into three parts. Generally, we discuss Gandhi since his entry into nationalist politics, mainstream politics. That is, by that time he was a celebrity. So, in other words, we discuss Gandhi as a celebrity. We generally do not put adequate emphasis on the childhood influences on Gandhi. So, there are three parts in my talk, and the first initial part would be Gandhi's childhood days, and I will try to link his childhood days, which is with his celebrity life, and there is a linkage I found. And in the second part, I will deal with Gandhi's travel to the West. I am using the term West in a broader sense because I'm not only including England, I'm including also South Africa because geographically speaking, South Africa is situated on the western part of India, western side of India, across the Arabian Sea. And then in the third part of our lecture, we shall deal with Gandhi entering into nationalist politics. By that time, he is a celebrity, he is a known figure. So there will be three parts in my lecture. I will start with his childhood days. I will try to study the influences which became very significant in the molding of Gandhi's mind, and without which you do not even understand Gandhi as a personality. He was not merely a politician, he was also a philosopher, he was a thinker, a very rare brand of politician who tried to link politics with religion, politics with ethics, etc. So that's why he is also very controversial because nowadays, particularly in Western developed nations, there are discourses who argue that religion should not be entangled with politics. So, but how Gandhi made this connection relevant in our struggle for freedom is a part of this study. So this is not merely a study of Gandhi's engagement with religion, engagement with Islam in particular. This will enable us to address several other controversial issues. Now, uh, Gandhi during his childhood days, uh, both I can divide his childhood days into two parts. That is Gandhi's childhood within the domestic sphere, that is within his house, within his home, when his mother, his father, his uncle, had been influential in the shaping of Gandhi's mind during his childhood. That is one aspect. That is the domestic aspect, private sphere. But also there is a public sphere so far as Gandhi's childhood is concerned. That is, Gandhi is going out of home as a child, going to school. So that is the public sphere of Gandhi's childhood. So I would argue that both these private and public spheres during Gandhi's childhood played a crucial role in shaping Gandhi's mind, without which we do not understand Gandhi as a celebrity, Gandhi as a phenomenon in the realm of politics. So, Gandhi's mother, I must mention, Gandhi's mother was a Kabir Panthi. This is important because this is the entry point of our discussion. If we say that Gandhi understood Islam, Gandhi understood Sufism, Gandhi understood mysticism, then this connection, this influence is very important. Gandhi's mother was not only a Kabir Panthi, but she also belonged to the Unami sect of the Vaishnavas. So there are twin mystical influences in Gandhi's mother through Kabir, through Kabir's dohas, and through the mystical songs of the Punami sect of the Vaishnavas. Now, this linkage becomes more significant when we understand that Gandhi's mother also simultaneously hailed from a mercantile family. So, for our convenience, let us use a formula to understand Gandhi's childhood connections. That is M square. That is, from mother's side, Gandhi was exposed to this M square aspect. That is, one M for mercantile uh, phenomena, mercantile dimension. Another M is for mysticism. And mysticism was derived from Kabir Pantha as well as from the Punami sect of the West. Now, this is an important combination. This merchant plus mystic, M square. Because both the merchants and the mystics, they are not necessarily favorably disposed towards a Leviathan-like state. Because a Leviathan-like powerful, huge state imposes restrictions on the individual, on the merchant, as well as on the mystic. For example, the state would impose tax, the state would impose certain restrictions on the uh, unconventional activities of the mystics, because sometimes they are projected as um, can you hear me? There is some. I think you can hear me. Yes. So um, so that's why there's a combination. There's a link between the merchant and the mystic, because often mystical movements, whether it's a bhakti movement or whether it's a Sufi movement, these sort of movements are often patronized by the merchants. Unconventional movements are often patronized by the merchants. For example, Brahmanical hegemony was challenged by the Buddhists and the Jains. So they are Protestant religions in a sense. So similarly, the Bhakti saints and the Sufi saints, they do not perceive the Leviathan-like state as a very friendly entity, friendly institution, and they are also opposed to the activities of hegemonic orthodoxy. They are opposed to hegemonic orthodoxy, I mean mystical elements. So later on we shall see that during Gandhi's political career, there were two representatives of hegemonic orthodoxy. One was the Hindu Mahasabha and another was the Muslim League. And the Leviathan-like state was the British Empire. And Gandhi, from his childhood, had to listen to such discourses within his household, that his father was having a discussion with his uncle that one day the entire country, entire Hindustan would be under the control of the British. And they felt, they reflected their, revealed their concern for this political development, that is the expansion of British Empire. Now, I must also introduce briefly, I have introduced Gandhi's mother briefly, I must introduce Gandhi's father and uncle briefly. They worked in the princely state of Kutch and Kathiawar. This is important. So, Gandhi in his drawing room from his childhood found people from different communities coming for discussion to his father and uncle who were in high positions working with the Kutch and Kathiawar princely state. So he found the Muslims in the drawing room of his house, that is the private uh, aspect of Gandhi's childhood. He found the Muslims in the drawing room, but these were different types of Muslims, as Gandhi would write in his autobiography. They were very dynamic Muslims, not associated with land. They are looking in a very dynamic and ambitious way towards the west, that is towards the coast of Africa. And many of them later on migrated to Africa. And Gandhi met them in South Africa. As we know, Gandhi's service as a lawyer was hired by uh, South African Indian merchants, and many of them were Gujaratis. This is very much important for us to understand this connectivity. So, in this way, Gandhi's childhood was very important. He could understand the Muslims as fellow fighters in the freedom struggle because he grew up in an environment where there was a mingling of Hindu culture, Islamic culture, Parsi culture, and so on, Jain culture, and so on. This was in the private sphere of Gandhi's childhood, drawing room. And then in the uh, ancestral home of Gandhi, near the Haveli, there's a memorial built in the premises of the household in honor of a Muslim soldier who sacrificed his life for the security of the to save the family from a danger. So Gandhi's family developed in this environment of collaboration between the Hindus and Muslims who share each other's faith. This is very much important for us to understand. So Gandhi naturally developed this fellow feeling towards the Muslims and also other communities because of the position of his father and uncle, who were in important positions under the Kutch and Kathiawar princely state. Many people would visit them on a regular basis. And Gandhi's mother represented the mystical dimension, mercantile dimension within the family. So, if you have to understand the evolution of Gandhi's personality, you have to understand this subtle tension between the merchant and the mystic. Gandhi was an expert uh, draft writer of constitution because he learned writing drafts, preparing drafts from his father and uncle who served the Kutch and Kathiawar princely state. So this came naturally to Gandhi. Gandhi inherited. But that same Gandhi created trouble not only for the British but also for the Congress party because as we see that there was a tension within Gandhi's personality. On the one hand, he was constitutionalist. On the other hand, he was rather unconventional, rather skeptical towards institutionalized politics and institutionalized system because his mother was a mystical element. And mystical elements are often critical towards institute specialized form of representation. Any form of representation, it may be education, it may be politics, it may be administration, and so on. So when there was a tension between mystical Gandhi and constitutional Gandhi, the British or the Congress party did not know how to accommodate this person who is being molded by this sort of a tension, perpetual tension involving a merchant and a mystic, and on the other hand, a constitution. Constitutionalism was represented by his father and uncle. So you have to understand this complex nature of Gandhi. Uh, that's why he would not run after any important post. He would not say that I want to be the Prime Minister of India, unlike many other leaders. He was ambitious in a different way, in a different humanitarian way, in a mystical way, but not in a conventional sense. He was not running for office. He was not promoting his son for a scholarship or any other important position within the government. If he had written a single letter, one or two lines, his son could have occupied a very important position in any institution in India. But he did not do that. He was a different type of person. Now, let us move towards Gandhi's public sphere, so far as child Gandhi is concerned. Gandhi was going to school where he found Parsi friends, Jain friends, and also Hindus and Muslims. And in the entrance of the school, he found that the Christian missionaries were showing aspersion of Indian society and culture with their proselytizing zeal. So he found these multifarious influences, heterogeneous influences in school life, that is his public sphere during his childhood. That played an important part in shaping Gandhi's mind. Now, another important factor was that Gandhi had the option to take either Sanskrit or Persian during his school days. And interestingly, Amit Shah mentioned Gandhi as a Chatur Baniya. I use the term Chatur Baniya in a very creative and meaningful sense. Because Chatur doesn't necessarily mean clever, Chatur means brilliant as well. Gandhi was brilliant in his judgment, and he later on wrote why he selected Persian as the official optional subject. He did not opt for Sanskrit. He explained that later on in his life that Sanskrit grammar was quite difficult to learn, Persian grammar was comparatively easier to learn. Uh, so he opted for Persian during his school days. And my hypothesis is that this exposure in his school life to Persian language and literature was vital so far as the efflorescence of Gandhi's mind is concerned. Because if you learn Persian, even today, you have to read about certain things, certain poets. And Gandhi, like a poet, conveyed his message to the masses in the form of hymns, in the form of songs, in the form of poetry. That is very much important. His mode of communication with the masses resembles that of a poet, that of a musician, because in Vaishnava sect, in Kavi tradition, this music and recitation is very important because non-literate people use this oral transmission to circulate their message because they can read and write. So that's why Gandhi was very successful later on in his life to mobilize the masses because from his childhood he learned how to communicate with non-literate people through music and poetry. That is very much important, and also through symbols. Because without understanding symbols, you cannot understand or grasp mysticism. Symbolism is very important in mysticism. That's why you will find later on in Gandhi's life, he was using symbols like khadi, like chorkha, etc. Like simple dress, like a peasant, etc. These are very important because non-literate people understands a person through the optimum utilization of symbols and optimum utilization of oral mode of transmission of knowledge through poetry and music, and that is very common among the mystics, both Hindu and Muslim mystics. So both Bhakti and Sufi saints would spread their message through music and poetry. That is very much important, and everyone knows about the importance of poetry in Sufi circles and also music known as Shama, nowadays known as Kawali. So these are important things that we have to understand. Now, while Gandhi was learning Persian, in Persian literature, you have to read Sadi as a beginner. You have to read Sadi because Sadi's Gulistan is written in a very lucid language, lucid Persian. So the beginners have to read Sadi for a proper understanding of the Persian language. So Gandhi definitely had read Sadi, and in Sadi you will find that a pre-Islamic Persian king is hailed as a hero. Now remember, nowadays we do not hail a person who is not belonging to our community as a hero. For example, a Hindu would be expected to celebrate someone as a hero who is a Hindu. And similar thing is true about the Muslims, the Sikhs, and others as well. But in those days, the thing was a little bit different because this Persian culture is also, Persian literature is also representative of Indo-Persian liberal tradition, cosmopolitan tradition. So this cosmopolitan element was there in the Persian literature. That is very much important. Humanitarian aspect is very strong in Persian literature. That's why Akbar the Great discontinued jizya after celebrating Hafiz, and also Devendranath Tagore started his day by reading Hafiz, who was well versed in Persian. That is mentioned by Rabindranath Tagore as well. So this Indo-Persian culture is very important. Its impact is very important. Without understanding that, my argument is that you don't understand the 19th century Renaissance personalities in India. You also do not understand broad-minded leaders like Gandhi. So, because in their childhood days they were exposed to this Indo-Persian culture, and Gandhi learned Persian, as we have mentioned. So there was one hero in Shadi's Gulistan, that is Naushirwan Adil, who was a Sassanid king who was known for dispensing justice. That's why the term Adil is associated with his name. His name was Naushirwan Adil. Adil is a title, means someone who dispenses justice. So he was known for justice. He epitomized justice. He was a just ruler. So you have to be careful that Gandhi's Ram, notion of Ram, who was supposed to dispose justice, is not only a regional king, he has universal acceptance, he has universal presence. He is a universal, Gandhi's Ram is a universal phenomenon, not a communitarian phenomenon. Doesn't belong to any particular community. Just like now Sarvane Adil. Now Sarvane Adil was a Zoroastrian, but he is celebrated by the Sikhs, the Hindus, as well as the Muslims. And if you consult medieval Indian literature, Persian literature, you will find that there is a celebration of Naushirwan Adil as a just ruler. That is very much important. So, in this way, Gandhi was being exposed to Islamic culture through a liberal brand of Islam that you can call cosmopolitan Indo-Persian Mughal culture. Gandhi was favorably disposed towards Mughal tradition and praised the Mughals for their cosmopolitan nature, broad-minded nature. Actually, if you carefully study this aspect of Gandhi, you will also come to the conclusion, like me, that medieval period was not that medieval and modern period is not that modern. Nowadays, in South Asia, as tremendous exclusivism is occurring. People have become very intolerant. This was not the situation under the Mughals, under the Indo-Persian tradition. People were quite liberal because Gandhi was also reading Rumi. Akbar could not read and write. He was non-literate, but in the broad sense of the term, Akbar was learned and enlightened. So Akbar asked his scribe to recite from that part of Rumi where Rumi said that if God wished, he could have created only one community, but he did not wish to do that. So he created many religious communities and sent a religious leader for each of them. So this is a sort of a cosmopolitan aspect that you find in Persian literature, you find in Sufi literature. So Gandhi was growing up in his school days by his exposure to Persian literature, by his exposure to Rumi as well as Hafiz. And if you read Gandhi's complete works, you will find that there is reference to Rumi as well. So my hypothesis is supported by such evidences later on available in his life. So this is very much important, this connectivity. Gandhi was growing up as a cosmopolitan person, liberal person, broad-minded person. So Gandhi's Ram was not the Ram who was born in Ayodhya and who was not the son of Dasara. He was a universal image, just like in Gautam Ghosh's film you have modern Manush. So the man of heart is this Ram. Is applicable. This Ram is applicable to all the communities for entire mankind. He is Kabir's Ram. Kabir's Ram is not communitarian Ram. Kabir's Ram is not confined to any particular community. So Gandhi's Ram is different from 21st century Ram as we see around. So this is very much important. This is the broad-mindedness of Gandhi that is vanishing very fast, not only in South Asia, but also in other parts of the world as well. So this is very much important for us to understand. Now, when the next part is that Gandhi is going to West for higher knowledge. Gandhi is going to England. Interestingly, Gandhi did not study the religious scriptures of the Hindus, Buddhists, Muslims, Christians, and so on, or the Jews while he was in India. But he seriously started to read uh, scriptures, religious scriptures of all religions after going to England. This is very much important. When he went to England for higher studies, he was getting exposed to this sort of scriptures. For example, Gandhi would read Sales Quran. Sales Quran became very important. Now, initially, the West was very critical towards Islam, but Gandhi found that later on uh, there was a different approach. Approach towards Islam uh, was characterized by a major shift, and Gandhi found that sort of a literature that is a re-evaluation of Islam could be visible in the Western world, in Europe, and Gandhi found that. Because the Indian students who used to go to England for higher studies, they would read some important books who were near contemporaries of Gandhi, such as they will read Carlyle's essays. Thomas Carlyle is a famous essayist who wrote a book, Heroes and Heroes. Who were those heroes? Interestingly, I will not elaborate, but one such hero was the Prophet Muhammad. The Prophet Muhammad also became Gandhi's hero because a Western scholar, Western essayist is re-evaluating the role of the Prophet Muhammad. This is very much important because in the 19th century, when Gandhi was born, uh, there was a famous administrator in northwestern India who is William Moore, Sir William Moore. William Moore wrote a book. Probably he was advised by a missionary to write such a book. The title of the book is The Life of Mahomet. Mahomet means Muhammad. So he spelled like that. That's why I'm pronouncing according to the spelling. Mahomet, Life of Mahomet or Muhammad. There, uh, he rather criticized Muhammad and threw aspersion on Islam and rather said that Prophet had no spiritual dimension. Whatever we interpret as spirituality of the Prophet Muhammad was nothing but his feat of epilepsy. He suffered from epilepsy and that was manifested. So epilepsy had nothing to do with spirituality. So he distanced the Prophet Muhammad from uh, spirituality. And by doing that, he tried to prove that Islam was a religion which was not spread spiritually, which was actually spread uh, by the power of the soul. Now, Gandhi criticized this approach. Gandhi said, no, Islam was not spread by the power of the soul. Islam was a peaceful religion. Islam means submission. It's a peaceful religion. It was spread by the mystical elements. It was spread spiritually. And the Prophet had mystical dimensions as well. So Gandhi did not accept the argument of William Moore or other Western scholars who criticized Islam as a religion spread by the power of the soul. Gandhi did not accept this theory. He put emphasis on the spiritual dimension of Islam as he would do with Hinduism as well by putting emphasis on Gita and also Ved and Upanishad. Now, according to Gandhi, India was exposed or India interacted or confronted Islam at three levels. At the first level, Islam appeared on the Indian soil as a political military power. Gandhi had no interest in that dimension of Islam. Secondly, Islam also appeared on the Indian soil in the form of Qanun, in the form of fixed laws, fiqh or Islamic jurisprudence, fiqh or Qanun. You know, there are four law schools in Islam: Maliki, Shafi'i, Hanbali, and Hanafi. Hanafis are popular in India. They are more liberal than the other three schools of Islamic law. So the second level of interaction between India and Islam is this law, Islamic law. Gandhi is not interested in law or in Islamic Qanun. But at the third level, India confronted Islam. What was the third level? The third level was Sufism or mystical dimensions of Islam. And yes, Gandhi was interested in this third dimension through which uh, Islam confronted India or India confronted Islam. This mystical aspect is important to Gandhi because we have already discussed that during his childhood he was exposed to mystical ideas through his mother. From his very childhood, he grew up by listening to hymns sung by his mother. He grew up listening to Kavir's Doha recited by his mother, who belonged to the economic sect of the Vaishnavas. This is very much important. So Gandhi noticed that at this third level, India was exposed to Islam through the lens of Sufism. Gandhi was interested in Sufism. Now, why Gandhi was not that interested in scriptural religion as such? Gandhi was a humanitarian. He believed in humanity, and he put more emphasis on human relations. And now, to make it a little bit lucid, I will draw your attention to the fact that those who are interested in music, most of them have heard the song of Jarjit Singh. Jarjit Singh would sing, "Dil se behtar koi kitab nahi." There is no book superior to your heart. Actually, the Sufis also argue that knowledge spreads from heart to heart. Knowledge spreads from heart to heart. That is, they call technically Sina Vasina. Knowledge spreads from heart to heart, not from one book to another book, not from scripture to scripture. So, in other words, Gandhi challenged the dictatorship of letter. Nowadays, we notice that literacy rate is quite high. Printing technology has gone through a revolution, and even the uh, media, soft media, or what do you call it, this electronic media that revolutionized communication, and these letters are dictating our lives. They are a sort of scriptural dictatorship has been established. People are following scriptures word by word. Gandhi was not like that. Gandhi was spiritual. Gandhi was imaginative. Because to make it a little bit clear, I must say that all spiritual people are religious, but all religious people are not spiritual. Spiritual people belong to a higher level. Everyone cannot reach the stage of Gandhi. Huh? So Gandhi believed in this relationship should spread from heart to heart. So this human connectivity is very important to Gandhi. Gandhi believed in horizontal relationship like the Sufis and also like uh, the Bhakti saints. And we see that there are Sufi and Bhakti influences in Gandhi's childhood days. And Gandhi grew up in that environment. Gandhi grew up in listening to the Doha of Kabir and listening to the hymns of the Purnami sect of the Vaishnavas and so on. So Gandhi had this humanitarian feeling from his childhood, developing because of the uh, training of his mother. Mother was rearing Gandhi quite well and exposing Gandhi to mystical ideas. This is very much important for us to understand. What I'm trying to say is that what is my hypothesis is that you don't understand Gandhi's defining of Satyagraha or Satyagrahi if you do not understand Gandhi's serious engagement with Islam. Because Gandhi is not only defining a Satyagrahi, who is an integral part of Gandhian nonviolent movement, uh, only by referring to Vedas and Upanishads. Because Gandhi is not forming this image of a Satyagrahi only by relying on Vedas and Upanishads. Gandhi was a person who would be promoting composite nationalism because in India you find that people of different religions uh, they reside in India. Indian tradition is not to say or not to promote one country, one religion, one language formula. But nowadays, this sort of formula are getting prominence all over the world, in our neighborhood, in our country, everywhere. There's a tendency to put emphasis on one country, one religion, one language formula. This is a very homogeneous idea, intolerant idea that you are If you say one country, one religion, one language, that you are not tolerating other religions. Uh, Minority religions are not recognized. Other languages are not recognized. Uh, you see this sort of implementation of this sort of formula in many countries, like in Northern Africa, only one language prevails. So there are local languages; they are not recognized. So a sort of Arabization is taking place, homogenization is taking place in Northern Africa. Gandhi was not like that. Gandhi was like the Mughals who believed in Persianization. Persianization meant heterogenization, and Arabization meant homogenization. Now, world is now fighting between these two uh, theories. Which will prevail, we do not know. One is exclusivism, homogenization, or Arabization. I'm not undermining the Arabic language. By Arabization, I do not interpret that merely in linguistic terms. I interpret it in terms of social behavior. So, homogenization is equal to Arabization. Persianization is equal to heterogenization. So, Persianization leads to cosmopolitan civilization. And Gandhi learned Persian during his school days. Gandhi was favorably disposed towards the Mughals, who also patronized Persianization. Rammohn Roy also patronized Persianization. Devendranath too, we have mentioned. So, a cosmopolitan environment is good for India because India is the land of people who belong to different religions, different languages, different cultures and stuff. Unlike many other countries in our neighborhood, we cannot say that we want to celebrate one country, one religion, one language because this is not compatible with the notion of composite nationalism. But Gandhi had to challenge exclusivist ideas like the divide and rule policy of the British, like the two nation theory of the Muslim League, so on. So Gandhi had to challenge theoretically at the theoretical plane. Gandhi had to challenge the two nation theory as well as the divide and rule policy of the British and two nation theory of the Muslim League at the theoretical level. So Gandhi was forming this theory by reading Islamic scriptures as well, not only Vedas and Upanishads. So this liberal uh, proclivity in Gandhi's political theory was being sustained by Gandhi's intensive study of scriptures, that is Hinduism as well as Islam. That is very much in, and particularly Sufi Islam. So this composite nationalism means, by composite nationalism I mean that you have a theory to accommodate, to cater to the requirements of different communities, different linguistic groups, different religious groups, and so on, different ethnic groups. So this is composite nationalism. Composite nationalism doesn't accommodate or doesn't accept the notion of two nation theory because two nation theory is based on exclusivism and Gandhian nationalism is based on inclusivism. There can be some similarity between Gandhi's notion of nationalism and Rabindranath Tagore's notion of nationalism. These are not the nationalism of the new nation states who are bothered by political frontiers because they have a tendency to transcend frontiers in tune with humanitarian uh, philosophy. And that is not constrained by any geographical space, by any political space, by any national, so-called national space, nation states, uh, limited idea of nationalism. These are these have a tendency to transcend boundaries. Just like the Sufis, as I've mentioned, they communicate with others, Shina Vasina, heart to heart communication. So you may at one point of time draw a political frontier, political border, but Gandhi, Rabindranath, people like them have a tendency to transcend that boundaries as well. But Rabindranath had an advantage because he was a poet, but Gandhi was constrained by the fact that Gandhi, in spite of being a philosopher, was at the end of the day was also a politician. And the politicians have to recognize frontiers of nation states. Otherwise, he would not be a politician. As you see nowadays, much talk is going on about the defining of frontiers and what can happen if people cross in mass the frontier of a country and to enter into the frontier of another country. These sort of debates are going on in television and other media, as you know. So this sort of a tension was there, ambivalence was there in a great leader like what should be the frontier? As you know, even after the declaration of Pakistan, Gandhi spent time in Noakhali when the brutal communal riot took place there. And any other politician would not have been there because the country has already been declared as a part of East Pakistan. But Gandhi was still marching to uh, restore normalcy, to restore peace and tranquility in riot town, riot ravaged North. So this is the ambivalence of a conscientious politician who was influenced by mystical liberal human outlook. Nowadays, these brands of politicians are almost they have almost disappeared, as you know. These are ethical politicians. So this is very much important. You have to understand Gandhi in this context of ambivalence. Ambivalence is not unnatural. Even great people suffer from ambivalence. For example, in Mahabharata, you see Dhritarashtra suffered from ambivalence. But Dhritarashtra was not without any merit. He was a meritorious person, but suffered from ambivalence. So ambivalence is an integral part of human character. So Gandhi was not free from that. Gandhi had self-contradictions as well. But still, uh, we can draw a more comprehensive picture of Gandhi's engagement in the anti-colonial struggle if we have this approach, as I'm sharing with you, that we have to carefully link Gandhi with his research interests. For example, he's studying Islam. And interestingly, you will not find any politician behaving like this, like Gandhi. For example, Gandhi learned Urdu for 3 years. Why did he learn Urdu? Because important Islamic scriptures are first translated from Arabic or Persian into Urdu. Before getting them translated into other Indian languages, you will find an Urdu translation of important Islamic scriptures or Islamic literature in the Urdu language. So Gandhi wanted to access those latest Islamic literature, Islamic propaganda, often in which Muslim League and their sponsored ulama had been involved, who were spreading the two nation exclusivist theory. So this is one important dimension that we have to understand. Remember, Gandhi addressed Congress sessions where he found significant number of Muslim members in Urdu. From the very beginning, even in 1920s, you will find Gandhi during the Khilafat movement addressing in Congress session in the Urdu language. Very important. And with the development of two nation theory later on, Jinnah tried to prove that Urdu is the language of the Muslims. Other Indian languages are not the language of the Muslims. For example, Jinnah's mother tongue was Gujarati. But later on, Jinnah would not write anything in Gujarati. Gandhi would write letters to Jinnah in Gujarati to remind him that both my mother tongue and your mother tongue, they are Gujarati. But Jinnah stopped writing in Gujarati because Jinnah's two nation theory doesn't accommodate, doesn't recognize Gujarati as a language of the Muslims. It's a very superficial position, as you know. But Gandhi mastered Urdu, and Jinnah learned Urdu at the age of 71. And even then, Jinnah could not speak Urdu fluently. Because when Pakistan was established, if you listen to the lecture, very first lecture he is delivering in the after in the free state of Pakistan, independent state of Pakistan. He started in Urdu, but majority 90% of his lecture was in English. He could not speak Urdu fluently. He learned Urdu only at the age of 71. That is during the fag end of his life. But Gandhi, as a young man, learned Urdu because Gandhi had to communicate with the Muslim population of India, Muslim citizens of India, and also had to theoretically justify Muslim participation in the anti-colonial struggle. And Gandhi had to theoretically broaden the base, broaden the definition of his notion of Satyagraha so that it is intelligible to the Muslim community. So that's why Gandhi had to handle Urdu literature or Islamic literature, in other words. Now, uh, you know, tafsir means a commentary on the Quran. Gandhi's friend Abul Kalam Azad, Gandhi's follower Abul Kalam Azad, another great Congress leader, would write tafsir. Tafsir means commentary on the Quran. And Azad was a brilliant person who was writing commentary on the Quran in the context of contemporary political developments in India. And just like Gandhi, Azad also tried to prove that Muslims can work hand in hand with the Hindus during the freedom struggle and during the nation building process also. They can live side by side. And he also did not accept the two nation theory, nor did Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan, the frontier gun. So this is very much important. And you will be astonished to know that Gandhi theoretically challenged the ulama sponsored by the Muslim League by saying that there is nothing like two nation theory in the Sunnah, because the Prophet Muhammad did not speak about any two nation theory. The Prophet did not speak about forming a nation on the basis of religion. The Prophet even did not say that someone can establish a state. So if you have to work together, the Prophet used a term that is not state, that is not monarchy, that is uh, millat. Millat means brotherhood. And that brotherhood is a broader notion. That brotherhood or ummah means followers of the Prophet. The definition of ummah was different in the prophetic days, but nowadays in the 21st century, ummah is being used in a very narrow sense. Ummah today only means, or people try to just convince others that ummah means the Muslim community. But during the prophetic time, Gandhi and Azad argued, and that's why Azad could stay with the Congress, stay with Gandhi, and could oppose the two nations theory. They believed that Ummah is a broader term, broader definition during the time of the Prophet, which was a Sunnah, because something done during the time of the Prophet is known as Sunnah. And Ummah meant not only the Muslims, it also meant the Jews, the Christians, and including the pagans, because the Prophet did not convert his uncle Abu Talib into Islam. So this is the broad-mindedness of Gandhi. Gandhi did not convert his own uncle, into Islam, and he died as a pagan. So this is the broad-mindedness of the Prophet, who demonstrated that you have to live with other communities peacefully, meaningfully, and in a creative manner. So this is the brotherhood, notion of brotherhood, which he was elaborating and defining in a broader perspective, humanitarian perspective, not on the basis of exclusivism as the two nation theorists would like us to believe. So Gandhi said what Jinnah was doing, what Muslim League was doing, was not in tune with Islam, was not in tune with Sunnah, that is sayings and deeds of the Prophet, not in tune with Hadith, because nowhere the Prophet said that you can form a nation on the basis of religion. Nowhere the Prophet is saying that you can form a state. He was speaking in terms of brotherhood. And look, that's why the institutional state of the British and the very institutional political party of the Indian National Congress, they sometimes found it very difficult to accommodate Gandhi, because Gandhi had that mystical inclination, and which cannot be accommodated by any modern institution, whether it's a state or whether it's a political party. They found it extremely difficult to accommodate a person like Gandhi, a freedom-minded person like Gandhi, who believed in individualization of India. But the point is that why Gandhi put so much emphasis on religion, on the individual, um, like that? Because, for example, if you read Sufi poetry, I know I don't have much time, but I will touch upon some important points. For example, Gandhi believed in Sufi poetry and looked at Amir Khusro. Amir Khusro is saying, let me see whether I have a copy. Yes, I have a copy of his poetry here. Uh, this is the poetry of Amir Khusro in Persian. This is my handwriting. You have to forgive me. My handwriting is not that good. Amir Khusro is writing. It's a Sufi poetry. This is about the absolute union of the devotee with the supreme being, that is God. And Amir Khusro is saying, this is singable in a kawali or in a sama this is singable. Amit is saying, I am reciting, uh, Man tu Sudam, tu man Sudi, man tan Sudam, tu jan Sudi, takas nagwit badazi man digan Sudi. I become thou, thou become I become the body, thou become the soul. After that, no one can say that we are separate. So Gandhi is putting emphasis on the triumph of the individual. That is, Gandhi's Satyagrahi should be uh, careful, should be very much, uh, should recognize the power of the individual. Why Gandhi is putting so much emphasis on the individual? Because Gandhi is trying to distance the individual from the uh, collective, because the collective is capable of brainwashing the Satyagrahi. So Gandhi would not allow that. So Gandhi believed in the triumph of the Satyagrahi, triumph of the individual. A person who is a congressman or a Satyagrahi, maybe a Hindu, maybe a Muslim or Sikh, whatever, that person is answerable only to God alone. That's why this sort of Sufi poetry became very important to Gandhi. So hymn singing, uh, eh, songs and poetry became very important in Gandhi's Tolstoy farm in South Africa and also in the Sabarmati ashram in India. Sudran, you understand that this triumph of individual, Gandhi is trying to distance the individual from the representatives of hegemonic orthodoxy who also represent the collective and the collective pressure. This collective pressure was being represented by the Hindu Mahasabha on the one hand and uh, the Muslim League on the other. So Gandhi is trying to distance the Satyagrahi from such collective body who can brainwash the individual. Because Gandhi is saying that you are an ethical person and you are answerable only to God, not to any collective like the Muslim League or the Hindu Mosque. You are answerable only to God. You have to Sina communication, carry out Sina communication only with God, God alone. So in this way, Gandhi is elaborating the notion of Satyagrahi and he's deriving inspiration from Islam, Islamic literature as well. I will wind up by uh, demonstrating one or two points because in the history, if you argue something, you have to offer one or two evidence. Otherwise, the discussion will remain incomplete. For example, on one occasion, Hazrat Umar was leading a group of people who were fighting in the desert, and at night, when the namaz time arrived, they said that we want to offer namaz in the nearby building. But Hazrat Umar, who was a caliph, would not allow them to pray in that building which was in front of them. Why? Because that building was actually a church. So Umar was afraid that if he allowed the Muslims to pray inside the church, they would be tempted to convert the church into a mosque. He would not do that because in the Sunnah, in the prophetic uh, time, there have been two major events. I will wind up very soon. One event was Peace Treaty of Hudaybiyah. Another event that took place during the time of the Prophet was the Medinan Constitution or the Constitution of Medina. In the Constitution of Medina, as well as in the Peace Treaty of Hudaybiyah, the Prophet Muhammad demonstrated that the Muslims should learn the art of living together with Jews, with Christians, with pagans. So force, even Quran is saying that force cannot be applied in case of religion. But nowadays we see that force is being applied in case of religion. So this is not Islam. So the Prophet did not apply force in case of religion. That's why I have mentioned that his uncle remained a pagan till the last day of his life. So in this way, in Peace Treaty of Hudaybiyah and in the Medinan Constitution, the Prophet prescribed a sort of a cosmopolitan society. So, taking the thread from that sort of philosophy, Gandhi was elaborating his notion of composite nationalism and asked the Hindus, Muslims, and others to fight together, shoulder to shoulder, against the representatives of hegemonic polity, that is, the imperialist power or the British. So, in this way, Gandhi's understanding of Sufism, Gandhi's understanding of Islam was very much significant because this enabled Gandhi to elaborate his notion of composite nationalism, elaborate his notion of Satyagrahi, and he wanted to include Hindus, Muslims, and even women within the nationalist struggle. I wind up by citing one other thing which I have mentioned, that Gandhi put emphasis on symbols. Chorkha. Chorkha is a symbol. By Chorkha, you are not only addressing the marginalized people like the Harijans, the Adivasis and stuff, you are also addressing the women folk, Muslim women as well, who were operative with the Chorkha. And when you operate the Chorkha, you sing songs. The central position of the Chorkha looks like meme for Muhammad, and the handle of the Chorkha, which you hold to revolve the Chorkha, handle looks like the uh, uh, Arabic letter Alif, Alif for Allah. So Allah Muhammad, something like that. So by spinning the Chorkha, Gandhi wanted to spin the nation uh, across community lines. So he wanted to transcend boundaries of the frontiers of each and every religion, to combine everyone, to mobilize everyone in the anti-colonial struggle by making the struggle a common cause for all. So in this way, Gandhi's understanding of Islam, Gandhi's research on Islam became very significant. Gandhi, Umar, as I've mentioned, Umar showed restraint that day. He did not allow other Muslims to pray in a mosque. So by doing that, actually Umar was translating into practice the peace treaty of Hudaybiyah or the Medinan constitution, in which the Prophet was a part. So in this way, cosmopolitanism was demonstrated by the great Muslim classical leaders, and Gandhi wanted to emulate them in his anti-colonial struggle. Sometimes he used Sufi symbols, sometimes he used pictures. He referred to Quran and Hadith, and also important events in the life of the Prophet and the Khalifa. And he read the biography of the Prophet written by Shibli Nomani of Aligarh in Urdu language, Siratul Nabi. He wrote the biographies of the great Caliphs written in Urdu by Shibli Nomani. So the Aligarh did not speak in one voice. We often say that the Aligarh is the beginner of two nation theory. This is not true. You have to understand that many Aligorians joined Gandhi in the Khilafat non-cooperation movement, like the Ali brothers themselves. And in a broad sense, Maulana Azad was also at one point of time a disciple of Syed Ahmed Khan, and on another occasion he became a disciple of Shibli Nomani, who wrote the biography of the Prophet, as I mentioned. So, in a broad sense, in a theoretical way, in an intellectual way, Maulana Azad was also an extension of the Aligarh movement. So, you cannot say that the Aligarh movement was associated with two nation theory, because two nation theory did not prevail during that time. It emerged much later, after, not before the entry of Jinnah in nationalist politics. So, um, we have to revise certain aspects of our understanding of the past. We have to re-evaluate Gandhi and his contribution in a new light, in a new, with a new approach, if we can properly connect Gandhi with his research on Islam and Sufism. In this way, probably we can redefine our nationalist struggle, our notion of composite nationalism, and can probably move forward to create and sustain a world which is based on cosmopolitan